evening, everyone. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Site Club, the Tom Numbers Show, and I've just got a new one, a new format, which is News with Tom Numbers. So that just launched today, and this will go out on my locals, but it will also go out shortly thereafter on my YouTube for everyone. So I've got Mr. Jason SHURKA with me. Jason, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to do this. I've been seeing you on YouTube, and it's just a pleasure to be able to connect and make this happen. It
is. We've been working on it for a while. We're both busy and ships in the night, and so here we are, man. So new people will know, a lot of people will know numbers at A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. But really I wanted to learn a lot about you today, Jason. There might be some new viewers that don't know what numbers are. That's what it is. It's gematria, simple gematria. Yep. President Trump uses it in his campaigns. So on his donation plaque, well, the text number for his donate for all of his donations, for all of his campaigns. So when he's speaking, when he does a rally or another event, he's got the rostrum. He's got a text number which is 88022. And if you do the simple gematria numbers, i.e. A is 1, first letter of the alphabet, B is 2, C is 3, all the way through to Z or Z, letter 26. 26 is God, card, game, you know, what's the nature of reality. But if you spell out the word Trump, T-I-U-M-P, T is the 20th letter, R is the 18th, U is the 21st, M is the 13th, and P is the 16th. We add all those letters up together and give them that numerical value. It comes to 88, which equals Trump. So on his placard, donation campaign is 88, which is Trump. Then there's the 0. I keep the zeros in, but 107 says you can drop the 0. So then you've got 22. 22 is MAGA, Make America Great Again. So it's MAGA, M-A-G-A is 22. So it's Trump, MAGA, and you add them together, and it comes to 110, which comes to the word president. So President Trump definitely knows this. Yeah, he uses it. Yeah.
Wow, you know, I never heard that before.
Yeah, he uses it, man. And
you think it came from him or somebody taught him?
That's a good question. So I think this comes from the day one of whenever life and creation, whatever this is, reality matrix, holographic, whatever it is. I think
I mean him choosing the 88022.
Oh yeah, I think
with
so.
All that.
I think he definitely knows it, because also simple gematria, you can call it gematria, then there's simple gematria, which is A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and then there's simple English gematria. They're all actually the same thing. You get other versions like Hebrew versions and other ordinal and reverse ones, but simple I think is the most beautiful, because simple gematria is 148, which comes to Donald J. Trump as well. And he always goes by that title. I mean, you've got Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump, President Trump, Donald John Trump, President Donald J. Trump, President Donald John Trump, President, you know, all of those. But I suspect he chose it. And I suspect the people he works with closely knew it as well. So they probably all, you know, agreed upon it. But the numbers are all over the place with him. So for instance, he lives at Trump Tower. That comes to 169. That comes to the Great Awakening, 169. One of the ways to say my name, Thomas Bushnell, is 169 as well, so I know it's those ones. But I've got some interesting ones for you, but we'll talk about that in the show. But yeah, they're there. You know, the numbers are there, and I think he probably came up with that himself, but probably along, you know, consultation with his team. He knows them. I actually received this, I guess, download. Early lockdown, looking into Diana, looking into the Kennedys, looking into hearing Trump talk every night. And the word downloads 88 as well, which is Trump. And it was just this kind of intuitive, telepathic thing that was coming. And he kept misspeaking, and I'd pick up the code. And that's, no one sat me down like a conversation you and me are having. It wasn't that, it kind of just came in. So I give him all the credit for teaching me numbers, and Diana and the Kennedys. So that's kind of how it came. That's really how it came. You know, I didn't know this. I didn't even know the word gematria. I kept calling it slightly incorrectly numerology. It's a form of numerology, but I didn't even know what gematria was until about 2 or 3 months in of doing it. So, you know, but in answer to your question, I think he probably chose it. Yeah, I'd have thought.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you for teaching me that today. Never heard that before.
It's all right, buddy. It's new stuff, you know.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah. And your numbers, so Jason is 59.
Okay.
Comes to a few things, but one of them is Joker, like a trump card, like a top card.
Okay.
And then your last name, SHURKA, if am I saying it right?
SHURKA, yes.
Yeah, SHURKA. That actually
Okay.
comes to 78, which is Genesis, and it's also Kennedy. So if you add them together, it comes to 137. Comes to Washington, D.C., that's one value. Casino Royale, as in James Bond, 107, likes to talk about that. But it also comes to President JFK, and it also comes to 17th. You know, you've got Q, the 17th letter. So 17th is 137. Your numbers, Jason SHURKA. So
what do you make of that? What do you make with that conclusion of?
Well, I have a natural disposition to look on the positive of all things. You know, there are obviously dark ones as well. I mean, Washington D.C. in itself is just it's a place, but people.
I think
that's
everything. It's like an archetype. You have the positive
yes
potential and the negative potential.
Exactly, and that's what kind of makes this reality, doesn't it? It's positive and negative, dark and light, and the numbers. You know, the numbers. And I noticed with it is the dark side. And I'm of the disposition that the dark side is gone, and now this is just kind of unraveling as a movie. And people differ on that opinion, and that's okay. But I noticed that the dark side have similar powerful numbers matched up with the good side, you know, and probably throughout history, probably it was lopsided. A lot of dark, negative energy was being done with numbers and spells and magic and all that stuff, and now dark to light, you know, it's been hijacked by the white hats, and it's all becoming good. I think intrinsically every number is good, you know. There's not bad numbers, there's not letters. Yeah, you know, but it's the people's intention. So people, you know, the bad ones knew the power of numbers, they knew the power of other things, other codes, light codes, etc. And they would manipulate it and try and, you know, their intention was going through it and trying to do bad things with it. But yeah, like you said, archetype, yeah, it's an arch, you know, there's a good side and there's a dark side, and you know, I believe we're going into a period of time where light wins and will be peaceful for hopefully at least 1,000 years. That's my perspective.
You know, you brought up certain terms that are funny right now, and I'll tell you why. In terms of like just interesting things that I've never actually spoken about publicly, so I think this is
okay.
Will be an
it's right here. It's
yeah. This will be an interesting way to plant the seed and bring in an intention of what I'm starting to come see to the surface. So you were saying Washington, D.C. and President and Kennedy and 17th and all those things.
Yeah.
And I'm not one that likes politics. I don't like politics. I think
I don't like it either.
Yeah. I think it's a bunch of dirty nonsense and just a whole theater show from beginning to end. And the reason I don't like it is because it's one big game, but I don't think it needs to be that way. So right now, and you know, I'm young, so I have limited experience in my life, but with my experience.
How old are you, Jason?
25.
You are young.
Yeah. So
I thought you were older, just not but just because of your kind of maturity and success level. I was like, this guy's probably, that surprises me. You've had an easy paper around. Yeah.
But basically, I've really been looking around myself and the environment in the political world over the past 6 to 8 months, more than I usually would.
Okay.
And what I've started paying attention to, and I guess this is obvious to the rest of the world, but this is something that I'm now starting to look into, is it's always Democrat, Republican. And we've never had a president that stood up and didn't try to win the votes of either Democrats or Republicans, but just win the votes of human beings. Yeah. So it's always, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, because that's kind of the way the system is. Yes. And so we think that those are the steps that we need to take. But there's something in my heart that says otherwise. And maybe I'm naive and maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm not.
I agree.
And the thing in my heart that says otherwise is if there was just somebody that stood up, and fine, you want to run as a Democrat or a Republican for the technicality of having to do that, no problem. But stand up, and instead of reading a stupid screen on a teleprompter of what somebody tells you to say or not to say, because a consultant told you that this is going to win the black votes and these votes, instead of thinking like that, just speak to human beings regardless of the different subsets that you have to appeal to. And there's something in my heart that tells me that if somebody just stood up and said, sure, I'm running as a Republican, but I'm not one or the other, and neither are you. Because at the end of the day, if you identify as a Democrat or Republican or anything in between or outside of that spectrum, we still all want the same thing. Forget about the abortion and the gun control and all that for a second. At the end of the day, everybody in terms of the common man wants a good life where they can live with their family and support with their family and put food on the table. And it just so happens to be that now we're fighting all of these, distractions that I see of abortions and guns, and let's put that to the side for a second and focus on what matters of what does it mean to be a human being and treat each other the right way. And I truly believe that if somebody just stood up and just said, enough of this nonsense, I'm speaking to you as people and not as Democrats or Republicans, I think that person will not only unify the United States of America in the way that it should have been and unify the world as a whole, but solve a lot of problems. And I don't know, I'm thinking one day maybe to do something like that.
So you might run.
Criteria wise, I'm able to. The only thing that doesn't fit the criteria is my age. I need to be 35 years old. So
Really?
I have a lot to learn.
There's an age limit on it.
The minimum age is 35 years old to run for president of the United States. Yes.
Really?
Yes. So nobody's ever done that. No, the youngest president, I think, was Obama. So it's like nobody does that. That's not a thing. I think, don't quote me on that. But basically my point over here is it doesn't need to be this difficult. And again, maybe there are a lot of nuances that I don't know. But what I do know is that at the end of the day, look at the president right now, look at the government in America with the judicial and the executive branch and all the three different branches that are supposed to play checks and balances. Nobody asks the people what they want anymore. We elect our congressmen or senators, and they're supposed to represent us. And then the president, really, if he wants to put something into action, needs to go to the House of Representatives and all that. I think the president should speak to the people. I think the president should go straight to the people. Because if you have a House of Representatives with however many people that consists of, that could still be very corrupt no matter what checks and balances you have. Because now that senator, right, can have a certain interest or can have a certain lobbyist coming their way to say, do this and do that and whatever it is. But it doesn't need to be that way if we went back to the people who the government's supposed to answer to in the first place. So that's changed over time. I think that there are ways to solve this. And again, maybe I'm young, maybe I'm naive. I'm sure there are a lot of things that I need to learn when it comes to this because I'm not anywhere near understanding the bigger picture of what this actually entails. But if I had to follow my heart, it doesn't need to be like this. And there are simpler ways of going about this, of giving the people back the power instead of giving corruption a way to lead with checks and balances, because that doesn't really exist anymore. Not in the way that it should.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah. What you as you were saying that, something popped into my mind. So obviously President Trump was Democrat when he was younger, and then he became Republican kind of for that purpose to step in, but he's always attacking the rhinos, and he's also showing people, even, whether they're rhinos or not, people close to him at some point or other, kind of 99.9% of them seem to be hung out to dry, or in the, they've even gone, or they're being shown that now. The interesting thing as well, when you talk about, because it's like, why should you choose? It's the illusion of choice. You can either take this or that. And then it's like, well, you can just push people into a narrative anyway. It doesn't matter, places like Oxford and Cambridge here, they're all part of the same team. They're all part of the same one, but it's the appearance of choice, the illusion of choice. They all go through the same system. But when you were talking about that and obviously Kennedy, so Kennedy was a Democrat, but in the circles that we talk about, and you've got Kennedy and Trump together, so one is a Republican, one is a Democrat. But is that, so they're labeled their terms. It's like, well, okay, this is the system. We've got to go in and change it. We've got to infiltrate it for the good, but we're going to just have to make do with what we're doing. But the interesting thing, when you were talking about that, the scenario of the two parties. So if you blend the two colors, so you've got Republican being red, and then you've got Democrat being blue. And if you blend physically those two colors, so if you blend red with blue, you come up with another color, which is purple. And guess what purple equals in the numbers? 88 Trump. So I'm thinking, I'm from the perspective that he's doing that, he's dismantling. I think we're probably going to see something completely new, and it'll be founded on the Constitution. It will get rid of all that red tape, will get rid of all that bureaucracy, all that lobbying, all of that stuff that you're describing. And I do think we'll see a new system, a new form of government. And then, there's talk of people doing things kind of, like you said, taking it back to the people. It's like the people should be the ones that dictate to their leaders, well, we need this, we need this. It should be it's a public servant, it's a public office of service. Like they describe in the Batman films, it's like, well, it's you're a public servant, not a public siphon. You're not a thing that can go and hoover and take advantage of everyone. It's like you're there to serve we the people. So I like your thinking on that, and I do think there will be some kind of.
And that's not to say, by the way, I don't think that the world needs to be 100% on the same page. But right now, if you pay, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. We have billions of people. But right now, the split's like 49-51, supposedly. It could be 80-20 if you speak to the people the right way. If you speak to the people in a way of saying, it's not like, stop calling somebody else a Republican or a Democrat. It's either what is your intention? Are you a good person or are you a bad person? Are you here to help? Are you here to hurt? Are you here to give? Or are you here to take just for yourself? There are basic principles here, but what I don't see outwardly it's bothering me is there are no presidents yet that outwardly express any form of spirituality whatsoever. Zero. It's not expressed. Maybe they live that way behind the scenes, but a president has a lot of power. The president of the United States is known to be the most powerful public persona in the world. I think that there are more powerful people behind that person in the shadows and so on. But I'm saying in terms of such an influential figure, you can use that power to change the world very quickly. But certain things need to be done that have never been done before publicly. And at the end of the day, we, the people, do have the power. And if the president sat there, no matter who that president would be, and worked on speaking directly to the people and having the people take their power back, I think it would bring a peaceful world. I think it would bring not a 100% united world, but a more united world. And I think we would just live in a better place. But at the end of the day, living in a world like that takes away war, which is big business for people. It takes away conflict, which is big business for people. So we're talking about a shift in consciousness that needs to occur. And I do think that the president of the United States, when I say that, I'm speaking about the position, not the individual, but an individual in a position like that can use that position to do incredible things, but they're going to have to take things into their own hands a little bit more, do things that haven't been done before. So I hope to see more of that. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen in 2024. I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yes.
And, I don't know. I don't know what tomorrow holds anymore.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely, it's a lot of it is waiting to see what's coming and see what we can do in between. But it's like, those positions you say about the president. Well, president is 110, which comes to the power. You said it's the most powerful position, on the surface in the world, and the power is 110 president. Also the Christ as well. So you're talking about spirituality, and there's lots of different, Christ figures. You talk about consciousness. I think this is definitely a return to Christ consciousness, but return to all other consciousness as well that have that, that foundation of spirituality.
Unity consciousness, God consciousness. Everybody calls it something, but it's this idea of like, it's not enough. For example, every president focuses on, from what I've seen, it's always the United States of America is bigger than that at this point. We got a world to save, not just a
Oh, it's
country.
the world. Yeah. Yeah. It
We
is.
got a world to save. We got a world to help. We got a world to unite, not just a single country. Because so long as we keep in that mentality, I think that's the consciousness of division that induces war. So
Yes.
yeah, you got a tight knit country, but you're still fighting with the other country and killing each other. So
Yeah.
it's like we got work to do, not just on a countrywide level, on a planetary level, and even beyond that, on a universal level. Because soon you're going to start seeing, and the news already started with it. I think somebody in NASA or whatever it was just came out and said that we have a huge threat from outside of the planet Earth. So now it's not just enough having unity within the human race. That's what you're going to start seeing. You're going to see narratives. Not that I believe that that's going to happen in reality, but I believe that they may make us believe that that's happening in reality. That's called things like Project Bluebeam, Operation Bluebeam, using certain technology to make us fear something that may not actually exist in the way that they're saying.
Yeah.
So there's so many things happening right now. There's so
There
many.
is. There is. You talked about spirituality of presidents, and about wars. So President Trump never started a war. What's your take on that in terms of his spirituality? I think he's spiritual, but he's got to play that figure of that. Where do you sit on that? What's your thoughts on that?
I could tell you on a personal level because I know his family. He's surrounded by the right people.
Yes.
With that and this isn't me like projecting my thoughts about him. I'm just saying my observation so far has been I believe he has very good intentions, but I'm not 100% sure. Like there are certain things I don't want to say on here because of the platform that we're speaking on.
Okay.
But we could also speak privately. But there are certain things that
you can put it locals is okay. If we need to take it out, I'll take it out on YouTube. But you can say it on, if you feel comfortable saying it on locals, which you can say what you want, you can. But if not, that's okay as well.
Okay. And after this, I want to have a private conversation with you where I'll share more personal things one-on-one, just to
Sure.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
Basically, I know that there are, from personal experience. Now, I'm not talking about what I heard. I know that he does believe in certain things that many of us don't believe in doing to our bodies, let's say. And he really does. He really, really does. He believes in certain medical interventions, doesn't believe that they have to be forced, but he does believe in the science of certain medical interventions. I disagree with that. Does that make him a bad person? No, that makes him a person that's acting out of the knowledge that he has with the experts around him that are showing him why something is good and something's not good. But I do know that he's surrounded by certain people that show him the other side of certain medical interventions as well, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And he doesn't agree with that. And that's fine. So what I'm trying to say here is, well, let's bring it back to what you were saying about spirituality. I think that I don't know any other presidents and their families, so I can't say anything about anybody else.
Can I ask who of his family that you know? I've met a couple of them, but I don't know them. I've met a couple. I'd
rather not speak about names publicly here.
Okay, that's fine. We'll talk after. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I'll share things with you privately, no problem. I just don't want to put it out in the public like that because it's like
I hear you. Yeah.
But basically what I'm trying to say here is I truly believe that the guy does have good intentions. Does that mean that I believe he does everything right? No, you're a human being. Everybody can make mistakes. Everybody's allowed to make mistakes, but I think the intention is what counts the most. And if your intention is to do good, everything else is fixable along the way with certain mistakes, because he's also done a lot of great things in the world. So we got to look at all of that. In terms of spirituality, I think he's probably more there than any other president that I've seen, with, again, my limited experience and my research and history. But I don't think it's strong enough to get to the world that we're talking to, in my opinion. Okay. I think you need more of a spiritual leader to come forth openly and not give a crap about anybody else around. But that doesn't mean that I don't like the guy. I do. I just think that he either needs to get stronger in that, or we need somebody that's going to step to the table that's going to do that. I think we need a spiritual revolution here, not a Republican revolution, not a Democratic revolution, a spiritual revolution in the world. That's my opinion.
Interesting. No, I hear you. I hear you from that perspective. I have a I guess I hear exactly what you're saying. And I have I guess a
And
different
by the way, it's okay if
take
we
on it.
disagree.
Oh
All
yeah,
good.
it is.
Yeah,
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 exactly. Yeah,
all
exactly.
good.
Well, that's what discussions are. But it's
Yeah.
the intention, and I feel your intention, and I feel his intention. You'll feel mine. So I feel that he's. Can I ask, in terms of spirituality, do you have like a kind of a faith or religion, or that you used to follow? I get the impression you're kind of more independent, just examining everything. Would that be fair?
Yeah. So I was born and raised into a Jewish family.
Okay.
If somebody asks me, are you Jewish? I would say yes. Am
Yeah.
I religious at all? No, I personally don't like religion. I
Yeah.
think that caused a lot of problems in this world. I see it as more of a universal oneness between all. And it's okay if we have like subsets in belief, but that doesn't make differentiations between us, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I got you. No, I
That's
hear
my
you on that. Yeah, yeah. So I feel, yeah. So I was brought up Christian, and I can see and feel a lot of the things that were good with it, but I don't go along religiously. I don't feel I need to. And I hear the comment about religion. But yeah, we're on this. For me, I just want to know what's going on, what the answer to everything is, and just go in that direction that brings happiness and joy to everyone, myself included. That's what so I look at everything. And for me, with President Trump, from my perspective, he's having to do this role of president, and he's doing certain things. I think there are a lot of things behind the scenes. I can't prove all of that, and I know that's the thing that is said. Oh, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, and people are like, well, kind of what's happening, what's behind the scenes, so you can't see it. But the way I got the numbers, I got it, I guess, quote unquote, in a spiritual kind of way. It just kind of came to me. We went into lockdown. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I just started kind of following my instinct and looking things up, and no one taught me the numbers. I looked up Diana. I saw some codes there that were deliberate. I figured out what those were. I looked at JFK, and I kept listening to President Trump. And when he also did the flight ban, so on the 11th of March 2020, he did the flight ban. I was supposed to fly to America 2 days later on the 13th, but that all got cancelled. I could have actually gone, because he said the UK is still open to come across. So I could, and I'm like, okay, I could have gone. Thank you, President. But the only way to describe it is when I heard him speak. I've always liked him. I've always liked the family, but from afar, it was like, it's President Trump, it's Donald Trump. But I wasn't really paying attention to. I knew he was getting heat, but it was US politics. I wasn't really bothered with it. It was because I'm not really into politics like you. But when the corona came in, that was like, okay, this is massive. What the hell is going on? I knew it wasn't what they were telling us. But when he spoke and he did that flight ban, and something came over me listening to him, and I just got this personal witness, and not everyone will, because we all have our own journeys, and we have our own thoughts and feelings and understandings. But the only way I can describe it is I was like, this is quote unquote biblical. And I don't mean from a Christian perspective, but I mean globally, this is way bigger than the norm of what's going on. And I just got this sense of reassurance from him, this vessel, the things he was saying, and I realized he's much more than just a president, that he's much more than just this political figure. So I hear you in terms of the things he says as president, and some of it doesn't make sense, and some of it looks like, well, some of it seems counterintuitive and sometimes even contradictory. And you talk about the medicines, I get that. But I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, he knows exactly what's going on, and everything is going to be okay, and he's going to get us to where we need to go. And that's the only best way I can describe that. So that's why I was in lockdown without fear. I knew things were going on. I also did consciously think, if I start speaking up, there's a chance I might get a knock on the door. They could shut me down. But I was like, well, this is big, so I'm going to just have to say something. And so I personally, without sounding too religious, maybe more in the spiritual sense of just like, I got a witness and understanding that this is our guy. This is the guy to follow. And that's why I've done that continually from then. But I hear what you're saying.
And by the way, I would personally agree. There's more of like a nuanced statement. Yeah. I agree that he's definitely, I think, in my opinion, he's definitely a piece of the journey.
Yes.
All I'm saying is I don't think he's the destination.
Okay. Okay.
That's my opinion. Also, partly because of his age, because I don't think we're going to reach a destination in the next 10 years per se. I think it's a process. So there will need to be a whatever the destination means, you know what I mean? There will need to be a process that he's obviously definitely a part of. Definitely a part of that. There's no doubt of. But personally, I see him as a very important stepping stone along the way to get to where we need to get to.
Yeah, I agree. I hear with that as well. I see that there could be another figure, like you say, you know, there could be a Christ figure or a Messiah. It could be whatever label you want. There could be someone higher that comes, and I accept that he could be maybe like a kind of forerunner, a John the Baptist type that leads the way. From I guess going back to biblical terms, and I don't hang on to that like religiously with that because I left all that a long time ago. But I've seen it in other faiths as well, other beliefs, even things like tarot cards. And some people go, "Oh, tarot cards." I do shows with Tarot by Janine, and I like it because in terms of just it's an intuition vehicle for her, you know. So I don't get all spooked out by that. But even in there, they have like there's a trumpet, there's a judgment card, there's a trump. And in biblical terms, there's this thing of the millennium in Revelation, and you've got the trump. So you've got the trump or the trumpet, depending on what translation it is. I personally believe, well, he's the trump. He's the trump of the last days. But I do accept the fact that he could be, but I think he'll get to the end with us. Maybe he'll go aside, like you say, his age, but he seems to be getting younger in some ways. So I don't get too hung up on that, and I don't think you are either, but I accept that there could be literally someone more advanced, more powerful that he's a forerunner for. But I also understand that he's bigger than, in my opinion, than just this political figure. So I think
I'm with you.
I get the sense maybe his spirituality is
if it's there, it's not outwardly, it might be there 100%, but it's not expressed enough to get to what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that may flourish later, or maybe not. Maybe that's not his calling to do that. But I think he'll get us. I think he'll be, whether he's the one that gets us, quote unquote, to the other side or the bridge that we need. I think he'll be there either directly or indirectly. He'll be in and around. That's my feeling, but I can't prove any of it. But I feel from the witnesses I've had and continue to get, I get that. But I hear exactly where you are as well with that. We might need something bigger in it. There could well be one that's bigger. And I think he would be like, well, because he talks about God and Jesus, it could be different. Jesus is an archetype for, Messiahs, Muhammad, Krishna, whatever it is, or nothing at all. It might just be everyone together, but he does leave that possibility of something bigger. But that's interesting. Yeah. Where do you see us? So I've got a thought on this. So he always says the best is yet to come, and I think that's a date. I think that's a time in the future. I think it's 2028, because the best is yet to come comes to 228. So if you drop the 0, 2028, and I've got a few thoughts on what that possibly could be. Also, I should interject with this. So we'll talk off screen about the Trumps. So I first met Ivanka Trump in 2015. Okay. And I had like a kind of numerical experience around her. And I think she plays a bigger part later in the future. But the best is yet to come. I feel that might be a kind of this crucible of where this leap that we need to get to becomes activated. And we might see kind of steps along the way, but I do believe, I was thinking it was going to happen in 2020, because I was like, well, I see this, I feel it, it's going to happen immediately. Corona is going to be 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months and we'll be boom. But it's now I accept that it's a far bigger job. It's a far more entrenched job. And slowly it seems like individuals are kind of being ignited, but it doesn't seem to be going at the pace that maybe some of us, it's not going at the pace I first thought, but I'm easy with that. I'm like, well, we could be in a worse predicament. But you talked about, it could be 10 years plus. What's your thoughts on that?
It depends what part are we talking about, because I think there are milestones for everything.
Mm-hmm. And what's your vision of the future? What do you envisage? So I envisage something, I do go along with, this is a millennial period, there's 1,000 years of peace. if we go with the military, you know, clearing up the swamp, getting rid of the tunnels, all that stuff, you can't, if you get rid of evil, you need to get rid of it everywhere, even if you can't necessarily physically see it. So that was a big shock in the beginning. I was like, I didn't even know that stuff was going on, but instantly I heard it. And
I'll tell you my personal issue with that is as follows.
Okay.
Go to draining the swamp. Basically, let's get rid of everybody that's doing something wrong over here and take them out.
Okay. Yeah.
On a spiritual level, I'm going to zoom out for a second. On a spiritual level, those people, those dirty, evil people are not the problem. And I know that that sounds crazy, so let me elaborate.
Yep.
If we were to take those people out right now, press a button, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Well, they would be replaced. So how do we ensure that those people are not replaced? And in my opinion, that goes to asking the question, well, where is the root of the issue? Because I see all those people as the branches on the tree. If you don't solve if you don't purify the poison from the seed or the roots of the tree, you can cut branches off all you want. You're not fixing the problem. New branches will come. They may look different, but they're still going to be poisonous. So in my opinion, the root of the tree and the seed of the tree is we, the people. And it's our level of consciousness and our level of awareness that will change everything that happens next. Almost like this. I just came back from India. I used to think that if we funded billion-dollar humanitarian projects, multi-billion-dollar humanitarian projects in India, we could solve all their problems when it comes to poverty. And after being there for 3 weeks, I realized that that's complete nonsense. Because if I threw $1 billion, if we threw $1 billion at the town or the city that I was in, and gave them the food and gave them the homes and gave them everything, it would just revert back over a period of time because we didn't change the awareness, the consciousness that caused that issue in the first place. So I believe that draining the swamp is not enough, because if the consciousness in the people remains as is, the swamp will fill up right back again. If we want to see a change in the world, maybe we can get rid of those people, but simultaneously, at least at the minimum, we need to change the awareness through educating the masses as quickly and as clearly as possible. And if we don't do that, which is the root of the tree, you could drain the swamp all you want. It's not enough. It will fill right back up. Yeah.
So it's draining the swamp within each of us as well, if we're going to be brutal about it.
I think it comes right back.
Because there's layers, isn't there? You've got, if a swamp is, as with anything that's layered, so take out but yeah, I agree. We've got to get rid of that. We have to get rid of the swamp within us as well. Yeah.
I think that's the main part.
Yeah.
People aren't, we keep outsourcing our power and outsourcing our power and say, he will fix it for us and he will bring us there. And I think the ultimate realization is nobody can do it for you. Nobody. I don't care how great of a leader they are. I don't care how great of a person they are. I don't care how great their intentions are. Nobody can do that work for you. It means we need to come back into ourselves, look at the dark parts of ourselves, be willing to face where we were wrong in the past, which is very difficult, and sit there and say, I'm willing to do the work. So the leader, whether it's Trump or anybody else, the leader's job, in my opinion, is not to do it for us or bring us there. The leader's job, in my opinion, is to show us that we have the ability to do it ourselves. Because ultimately we're going to have to do it ourselves. That's my opinion.
I agree. I agree. Maybe that's why we're seeing the wheels spin in some ways. You know, I do think there's physical changes that are going on that a lot of it we're not privy to. I saw tiny little bits of it in lockdown, kind of at low level, like possible arrests and things, but just, you know, you wouldn't know what was going on. But I agree. We've got to root that out of ourselves.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I think
we also need to be aware of it, because the other thing is the people, if just say if you take the normal average person, a lot of them still aren't even privy to the lower stuff. So I think there does need to be disclosure, and there's illusions. That's not the right word. They allude to the fact that there will be disclosure. You know, how that will come, I don't know.
But even
people
that,
need to know that, but then they need to root the stuff out themselves as well.
100%. Disclosure isn't a destination. Disclosure is a path. It's a
part of the process.
journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
People think that there's going to be one day of disclosing all. What does that even mean? You know how many things, whatever we figure out next, there's going to be a million other things that come after that.
Yeah.
That's how life works, you know? So I think that's another thing that we need to change in our minds and in our consciousness of how we define and perceive disclosure. It's not this thing that happens in one day. Even if the whole 10 days of darkness and mass arrest and all that happen, let's say that happens. That's not the end of disclosure. If anything, that's the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, it's a process. It's a process that happens over a period of time. And it's a process that can only occur, in my opinion, based on what we're ready to see. Because there have been a lot of things. Take David Icke. He's been speaking about these topics for 30 years. So disclosure technically happened then, but we weren't ready to see it or accept it or receive it. So we said, that's not disclosure. It's not enough. Again, it all comes back to us. We, the people, need to work on ourselves to be able to receive and see what's in front of us. It's been in front of us all along. The only thing that's going to change is the medium, we, the vehicle that receives what's in front of us.
Do you think we're at that point? Because some are doing it, but we're still, you know, none of us have finished articles, so we're doing bits. But as a mass consciousness on the earth, I do see people waking up. But what you're describing, initially it seems like we're way off that. It doesn't seem to be something that is pushing people into. I do think there's a possibility we've gone through some kind of thing, you know, physically in the cosmos that has activated. I've felt that a number of times. I think that personally for myself, I was always, you know, in inquiry and open, and I knew the things weren't the case as we were told, but I didn't know the depravity. I didn't know the depth of it. I didn't know the possible majesty of it. But as soon as we went into lockdown, I was like, this is massive. This is the biggest thing I've ever lived through. It was way bigger than 9/11, no disrespect to 9/11, but this was huge. And it was like, so I felt there was some kind of activation. Then I felt it, I know others did. But in terms of the masses, it still seems very kind of slow. It doesn't, the thing you're describing seems way off for them rooting out. So I don't know. I mean, I feel that there should be a reversal on things like Corona. They put the world into lockdown. They gave us 10 weeks warning and they did it in 2 weeks. And then everyone complied, you know. I believe that they could do a reversal on that with heavy disclosure, but you're right. David Icke was disclosing ages ago. We're trying to do the little bits of what we feel and intuit, you know, but I don't have hard evidence other than my experience of what's, you know, going on and
But
things.
what even is hard evidence? There are a lot of people with some of the work that I do. They say, where's your proof? And then my answer is, what the hell is proof? What do you want? A picture, a video, a contract, a piece of paper? Because even if I brought that to the table, they'd say it's fake.
Exactly.
It goes back to us having to be ready to connect the dots and see what's right in front of us. There is no such thing as inevitable proof without faith and belief behind that.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing that we're being shown, that they can fake things so well now. And it's like, it's this war of confusion. It's like, well, what's real, what's not? And it does come down to faith and consciousness.
I know people who have seen things with their eyes, and I know that they've seen crazy things with their eyes, and they're convinced that they were hallucinating.
Right.
That means that even if you see it with your own eyes, you can come to a point where it's not enough proof. True. Because there's always a way to say, I don't believe it. Even though I saw it, I don't believe it. The mind's a very interesting tool that we got, and it can either serve us or we're slaves to it. We need to learn about how those things work in order to, because people say, well, how do we really know? Well, there are certain things that I believe that you can know. 1 + 1 = 2. You know, 2 + 3 = 5. And if we can come down to the laws of the universe and laws of creation of how certain things work, then we can know that death doesn't exist. They call it a philosophy and a theory. But what is death other than the transformation of life? By law, forget about my belief. By law, if energy cannot be created or destroyed, then how can you call anything the beginning of creation or the end of it?
True.
You can't. Yeah. And that's something that we can know because it's based on one of the only universal truths that's, regardless of my belief and your belief and my opinion, your opinion, energy cannot be created or destroyed. There are very few universal proofs in this world. Most people don't know about those universal truths that are very simple and not complex. Energy cannot be created or destroyed brings us down a rabbit hole of so much, It dissolves a lot of theories out there of what it could be. We just need to be educated. That's why I'm saying the consciousness that created this problem needs to change. If we can change on the level of the collective consciousness, the world will change as a whole. And I think that's what presidents need to focus on.
Death is 38, which is change. That's what it equals.
That's beautiful. I didn't even know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it equals balance as well. So death is, and energy is 74, which is Messiah, which is Jewish, which is Muhammad, which is Tarot, which is also Jesus. English, the language you and me are conversing in, and also it's gematria, which is the numbers. So energy, it's another, I like that. Energy can't be created nor destroyed.
But then you have people fighting between their religions.
Oh yeah,
because
my truth is more powerful and more correct than yours, and that's what it comes down to, isn't it? It's like, no, we need to get rid of that. Yeah.
I've heard. I didn't know that in the New Testament reincarnation is like not a thing, because it wasn't the world that I come from. Yeah. I came to find that out because of me speaking about it, and then devout Christians would come and attack me. Yeah. And then again, it comes down.
That's nice, isn't it, to be attacked?
Yeah. But then it comes down to this point of forget about what you're reading in front of you for a second. There are universal truths that no matter what you want to say exist. They're the only things that exist. So if energy cannot be created or destroyed, then there's nothing to fight about here over there. There is nothing to attack anymore. But because we're outsourcing our power to things outside of us, and by the way, I'm not against the Bible in any way whatsoever. I personally think that this is the analogy that I'll give. Let's say that you, Tom, are my father, okay? And I'm 4 years old and you're 40 years old. And you tell me a sentence. I don't know, you tell me something about the world. I may understand the words that are coming out of your mouth as a 4-year-old, but I definitely don't understand it in the way that you mean it, because you have 36 years more experience than I do. So in that same way, I have nothing against the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran. I don't have anything against those things. My problem is that people think that they know how to interpret those things 100%, when I don't think we're even at the level of the entities or the energies or the beings that wrote those in the first place. So how can you sit there and say, I understand and interpret what this means the right way, when you're not even at the level of conscious? None of us are. Most of us are, maybe. Most of us aren't, in my opinion. But we're not at the level of consciousness and awareness that thing was written according to. So just because you can read it doesn't mean you understand it in its entirety.
Why do you think we're here? Why are we here in the first place, Jason?
Before I answer that question, I want to say one more thing. When you have a mathematical formula or equation, 2 + 2 divided by 4 times 6 minus 5. The normal person would say, okay, they would do it in order, right? But we were taught something called in my school, PEMDAS. That's the order of how you do certain things. So it's like
PEMDAS.
PEMDAS. Yeah, I'll actually Google it right now so I don't butcher it.
Where's that from? I've not heard that word before.
It's an acronym. Okay, here we go. PEMDAS stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, and division from left to right, and addition and subtraction. So PEMDAS is an acronym for parentheses.
Okay, so it's the order of. Okay,
it's the order of what you have to do first in order to solve that equation. If you didn't have that awareness or that knowledge, you would sit there and just do 2 times 2 plus this minus this divided by this, and you would think that you know the answer. But if you don't know PEMDAS, you have no idea what the answer is. That's what I'm trying to say. of just because you think you know how to do what's in front of you doesn't mean you know how to do what's in front of you. We need the higher keys, and that comes through awareness and consciousness. So to segue into what you said, first of all, I don't know. I have no idea. Let's start with that. Okay.
That's a good answer.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
what I believe of why we're here, and I'll back the beliefs by certain like universal truths as well. And again, this doesn't mean that I know this to be true, but we know that not only energy can't be created or destroyed, but there is a source of all energy, meaning oneness is something that everything is connected to. Everything is connected one way or another, whether we understand that thing or not. So in my opinion, because energy, no matter what level you're seeing or perceiving that energy from, has a certain order to it, there is an intelligence to energy. And that intelligence is what I would like to call consciousness, because there's an order to how certain things work. I personally believe that we come here in order to realize and remember that oneness again, because the illusion is that I'm separate from you. And the energetic truth is that you and I are not separate from each other. So my opinion is that we come here to realize our oneness again. Do I know that to be a fact? Absolutely not. I don't know why we're here, but we can do our best to, focus on those universal truths and ultimately bring ourselves to treating each other the right way. Because whether you believe that, Jesus is your Lord and Savior, or you believe that Muhammad is your, the guy that is God, or you believe that Moses came here to run the world, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is, are you following a path and certain footsteps that are making you a better person? Are you following a path that's going to make you love your neighbor? Love your neighbor. Jesus didn't say, love thy Christian. He said, love thy neighbor. Yep. Okay. That's what we need to remember. And it doesn't matter. All these things at the end of the day, they're saying the same exact thing with a different story, with a different path of events. Whether one is true or not is not what I'm interested in. Because even if I believe in one over another, I can't prove it, because I can't go back there right now to see it. So what matters is, how are we treating each other? Are your beliefs leading to a productive state of mind, to a productive world of unity, of love, of harmony, of peace? Or are they leading to one of saying, my God is better than your God, my belief is better than your belief, and I should kill you because you don't believe in what I believe? I don't think that that's the right thing to do. We came here to love each other. We came here to support each other. We came here to also believe in different things, and that's the beauty in the world. Imagine everybody was white. Imagine everybody was black. Imagine everybody was Asian. It would be boring. Look at the world we live in. You live in a world that's dynamic. You live in a world where you and I are talking, we're two different skin colors. We're two different heights. You have hair, I'm bald. It's cool. It's beautiful. There's a beauty to the dynamic.
I know as much as I used to, buddy.
So I think we need to embrace that. I think we need to sit with that and love that and really love each other for the differences, instead of trying to make everybody live a uniform life.
I agree. I like all of that. I like all of what you said. I concur. I agree with that. I wonder as well with the whole thing of the universe. Universe is 113 actually. Interesting. Trumpet. And it's even that election date, 11/3. But I wonder, I've thought of this, if we're in this, whatever this is, maybe that's what it is. The difference is we get to create our reality, and we're somehow meshing and meddling with, because most of the time we're in our head. Most of the time we're in our own universe. And they're putting that out now, even in films like the multiverse, Spider-Man and all that stuff. And it's like, I have a universe that I live in most of the time, inside my head, in my thoughts, but also just in my reality. You have a universe that you're living in inside your mind, and also your actual real experience. But then we get to the pleasure of bumping into each other and interacting and create another universe. And so I wonder if really, is it whatever the universe, whatever we believe is what the universe brings us. And so if we're wanting, Republican and Democrat or Christian or Jew or Muslim or none of that, that's what we get. And maybe that's what this is. This is a time to understand that and realize that. And then maybe we'll get to the point where we understand that and appreciate each other and love each other, and they say, okay, what should we create together? Maybe that's what the answer is.
You can't even disagree with what you just said.
No.
You know, that's how you know that it's a truth.
Yeah.
When there's a common ground between everybody, and it's called love.
Yes.
That's what we need in this world, man. And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the day that a president stands up on a podium and says, that should be a public service announcement. You want a public service announcement? Talk about that for a second, see how it changes the world.
Maybe that's coming.
I hope. And if it's
Maybe
not, I hope to be a person that can do that.
We'll see you in
2036.
Well, 2033 is dark to light, is John Fitch, is the 10 days of dark. 2033, if you drop the 0, because we're in 2023 now, you'll be 35. And maybe it'll be a 3-year campaign, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, you know.
We'll see,
but yeah.
see what happens. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if I'm alive by then with what's going on, all the stuff that we're talking about. One step at a
I'm sure
time.
you will, mate. I'm sure. Hopefully you will, but I'm sure you will be. So
Absolutely.
unless you go on to something else, you're like, actually, I need to do something over here, maybe. So.
What I am doing, by the way, and I do got to run in a minute, so we'll close with this because it's really cool, is there is a whole debate. Obviously, I know a lot of people know about this, a debate on the whole round earth, flat earth thing. And
Yeah.
Personally, I believe, and I've never been there, so I can't tell you that I've seen this. I believe that it's a sphere. But again, back to what we were saying, how do I know? I don't, right? I can have a belief, but I don't actually know until we can see. So what I've decided to do is say, listen, as a truth seeker.
And then how do you know if you're seeing correctly?
That's also true. That's also true.
I hear you.
But as a truth seeker, I think that my job and all of our jobs as truth seekers at the end of the day is to seek the truth, no matter where that brings us to. Even if the conclusion that it brings us to is one contradictory to our current beliefs, it takes courage to do that, but it's an obligation in the position that I personally feel that I'm in, which is seeking the truth in everything. So I decided to do the following. I said, listen, I can believe that it's a sphere, as you can tell from my handy dandy map over here, but that doesn't mean that I'm correct. That's
looking pretty flat though.
No, this is the sphere model of like how it looks
spread out. Yeah.
If it was round, you would see like,
I know. I'm playing with you.
And all that. So what I said was, listen, let me go into this with an open mind and let's see what that has to say. And I'm not even going to come from the sphere side. I'm just going to be neutral for a second, be like, okay, this is what I was taught. This is what they're saying. Let's see everything. But we need some sort of grand finale. So what I did was I just booked a ticket to space. I'm going in 2025.
Nice.
And I'm going to be bringing my cameras, and I'm going to be bringing a team, and we're going to be doing a documentary, not to prove one way or another. And this goes back to our conversation, because at the end of the day, no matter what I see up there, we can always say, it was a fake screen. They didn't take you up and it was not, whatever, right? The point isn't to prove one way or another. The name of the documentary is called The Higher Perspective. And the higher perspective is not about whether it's flat or round. The higher perspective is the fact that whether it's flat or round, we all live on the same plane or planet, whatever you want to call it. We're all in this together. And if one believes one thing over another, that's not a reason to fight or go to war over it. We need to have the higher perspective of consciousness, of understanding that no matter what's going on in this limited third dimensional physical plane, we are beings here to love and to give and to support one another regardless of our differing beliefs. That's the ultimate goal of that documentary. I'm just taking a unique approach to go and do something like that with that message.
Yeah. Who are you flying up there with? What airline, space line? Which?
This specific one is called the Space Perspective. Takes you up about 100,000 feet to the so-called edge of the Earth's atmosphere. And if it is what modern science says it is, then we should be able to see certain things.
How far does it take you up?
About 100,000, 19 miles.
Right.
High. Yeah.
Is that with Elon or another space?
No, that's with a company called the Space Perspective.
That is the company. Okay, that's the name.
Yeah, it's called the Space Perspective.
Who's behind that? Who owns that?
They have a few big names that are a part of it, but it's not one of it's like people in like hospitality and entertainment groups. It's not like big people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all those guys. So we'll see, you know, and I'm going there again, not to prove, because it's not about that. It's about saying, let's unite once and for all, regardless of our differing beliefs. So I look forward to doing that. And
How much is a ticket? That's maybe doable. How much is a ticket?
So we're working right now with sponsorships and all that to crowdfund what we already put out, but it's $125,000 a ticket.
125 is time travel, John Kennedy. There you go. Good stuff. Dark to light. You're going to go out there and see the perspective, dark to light. Okay. And then do you go up? Is it literally you go up and then come back down, or do you go up?
6 hours. So I get, it's 2 hours on the way up, 2 hours up there, 2 hours on the way down.
Ah, okay. So
I'll
do you
send you a
orbit,
link.
do you orbit at all on it?
No.
It's literally up, kind of hover, and then back down.
Well, no, you're not going into orbit. You're staying within the atmosphere of the Earth. So,
Okay.
so long
So
as
it's
you
literally
stay
it's
that-
up, kind of
you
hang around and then come down again.
correct.
Okay.
On a
Yeah,
very
send
high
it.
perspective. So
Yeah.
I'll send to you. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see
Cool,
where it
man.
goes.
Well, so how people can find you, because it'd be good to go into Unified and everything else next time. And
Absolutely. So to support everything that I'm talking about, because all of this, by the way, is not done by investors and whatnot. This is a movement supported by the people. So unified.tv. It's like unified.com, but unified.tv, UNIFYD.tv is where people can actually not only get access to our complete conscious video streaming platform, but we literally use the funds to do all these big projects. This one is just a small one in the big picture of what we're doing with all the projects that we could speak about on maybe another talk.
we'll do it again.
But unified.tv is where people can join, support. It's a nonprofit initiative, a nonprofit organization based out of the United States. And that's really what we do and where people can learn more. And of course, just my name, Jason SHURKA, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Telegram is where I can be found as well.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you, buddy. I've enjoyed
Thank
the
you,
conversation. It's been really good.
Awesome. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And we will be in touch.
We will. And we'll have our little chat in a little while. So
I'll give you a call after my next call.
good stuff.
All
Thanks,
right.
buddy. See you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers, Jason. Bye. Bye.